Hi my pupils, Teacher Edward once again. I'm here to teach you a subject called science. I want us to continue the topic. Remember we were talking about animals. We classified animals, and remember we defined the term classification. We said that it is grouping animals with common or things with common characteristics. Here we were grouping animals. We said that animals are classified into two, and that is vertebrates and invertebrates. We said that vertebrates are animals with a backbone, and then invertebrates are animals without a backbone. Then we gave out the groups of vertebrates, and we said that there are 5. We said that we have mammals, we have birds, we have fish, we have reptiles, then we have the amphibians. So we have talked about birds, we have talked about mammals, and today I want us to go to our number 3. We look at the characteristics of reptiles. So as you can see on the board, I have written for you what you're supposed to talk about. That is characteristics of reptiles. And remember, as usual, after giving out these characteristics, you're supposed to be in a position to give me the examples of these reptiles. So let's start from the first one. The first characteristic of reptiles is that their body temperature is not constant. In other words, they are cold-blooded. They are cold-blooded. This is different from birds and mammals. Remember, when we are talking about mammals, we said that they are warm-blooded. Same case to birds, we say that their body temperature does not change. But when it comes to birds, or to reptiles, their body temperature is not constant. In other words, they are cold-blooded. Cold-blooded means that their body temperature changes with that of the surrounding. When it becomes cold, they become cold. Their body temperature lowers or decreases. When it becomes hot, their body temperature increases. So that is one of the characteristics of reptiles. So the other characteristic is that their body is covered with scales. Their body is covered with scales. Somebody to remind me what we said about mammals? Yes, we said that their body is covered by either hair or fur. Then when we talked about birds, we said that their bodies are covered by feathers. When it comes to reptiles, as I have written for you, their bodies are covered with dry scales. Scales in Kiswahili inaitwa magamba. So as you can see on the picture that I'm showing you, those are the things that we refer to as scales. Yes, those are the scales. Look at the scales. Good. In Kiswahili nimesema ni magamba. Yes, good. So number 3, just like birds, they lay eggs. And they lay their eggs on land. And their eggs, in science, we say that their eggs are internally fertilized. Their eggs are internally fertilized. So they lay eggs, and their eggs are internally fertilized, and these eggs are the ones that hatch into their young ones. So those eggs are the ones that hatch into their young ones. In other words, you can say that reptiles reproduce by laying eggs. So that's another way of saying it. So in some questions you'd be asked, how do reptiles reproduce? So you just say they reproduce by laying eggs, and their eggs are laid on land. Then from there, most of them live on land. They live on land, but a few live in water, like a turtle. A turtle lives in water, but others live on land. So these are some of the reptiles that live on land, as you can see on your screen. Yes, those are some of the reptiles that live on land. Good. Then we have a turtle. That is a turtle. A turtle lives in water. So it mostly lives in water. It knows how to swim. So with those few characteristics that I have given out, I know that you can be able to give out examples of reptiles. So try and give me some, about 3-4 examples of reptiles. Yes, good. I've seen you discussing and telling your friend, and I have heard some of you responding to that. That is good. Some examples of reptiles are, we have a lizard. Yes, a lizard. That is a lizard that I'm showing on your screen. We have another reptile known as a chameleon. Good. I know you know more about a chameleon. It changes its colors. It takes the color of the background or the environment where it is. Yes, that is a good example of a chameleon that you're seeing on your screen. You have a snake. Good, that is a snake. A snake moves by slithering. We say that a snake slithers. Yes, that is a snake. We have another reptile called a gecko. Good. Yes, that is a gecko. Then I know you know the name of this. Yes, this one. This is another example of a reptile. Yes. Yes, it is a tortoise. That is a tortoise. Yes, this I have shown you the other one. Yes, I know you can recall the name of this one. Yes, I have told you that it lives in water. It looks like a tortoise but lives in water. Good, it is a turtle. That is a turtle. So those are a few examples of reptiles. Yes, make sure you recall their names. So I want to write the names again for you to write in your books. So copy these examples of reptiles. Thanks for copying those examples of reptiles. So from here, I want you to watch this short video. It has some reptiles. Just have a look. Look at some of the things that we have said, their characteristics and so on.
Well, as we mentioned earlier, today we're going to talk about reptiles. This is amazing. This is awesome. You know, the world has many different types of animals. One of the most fascinating types are the reptiles, and you're about to see why. But first, let's meet some of these reptiles. Snakes, turtles, crocodiles, geckos, lizards, and chameleons. Now look at these incredible animals. They're all reptiles. What do they all have in common? We're about to find out what makes all these animals reptiles. First of all, they are covered with scales. Not with hair or feathers, but with scales. Look at this incredible iguana. Oh my goodness, covered in scales. I mean, just look at these scales. These scales are dry and they're waterproof. And they cover the bodies of reptiles just like this iguana. Reptiles aren't covered in fur. They're not covered in hair. They're not covered in feathers. They're covered in these waterproof scales. Look at this massive snake. You can see that the snake is covered with scales. Remember, snakes are reptiles, and reptiles are covered with scales. Look at all these scales. absolutely covered with these intricate scales. Here's an interesting example of scales. This is an albino alligator, which means the alligator is very pale. And you can see that this alligator is covered with scales, but the alligator also has these bony plates on his back. You can kind of see them there in the corner. Those are not scales, but reptiles also can have those bony plates, but this alligator is still covered with scales. Scales are a big clue that an animal is a reptile. The second thing you need to know about reptiles is reptiles breathe in oxygen. Just like we breathe in oxygen, reptiles have to breathe in oxygen to survive. Now, just like people, reptiles have 2 lungs in their body. Lungs bring in new air and pump out the old air. Even reptiles that live in and near water, like crocodiles and alligators, have to breathe in air to survive. Now this is so fascinating. Did you know reptiles are cold-blooded? Cold-blooded means that their bodies don't keep them warm automatically. They have to have sunlight to keep them warm.
Thanks for watching that video. So before I wind up on reptiles, I just want to hear from you whether you can recall some of the characteristics of reptiles. Yes, tell me those characteristics. Yes, so we have said that they have dry scales, that is good. They lay eggs, that's good. What about their body temperature? Yes, we have said that they are cold-blooded. Yes, that means that they don't have a constant body temperature. Their body temperature changes with that of their surrounding. Then from there, we have said that some of them live on land and some in water. Yes, examples. Yes, we have said we have snakes, we have tortoise, we have turtle, have a gecko, we have a chameleon, and we have a lizard. Good. So from there, I want us to move on to number 4. That is fish. Look at the characteristics of fish. And after this, I know you'll be able to give me some examples. Good. So our first characteristic, just as we said or we talked about reptiles, their body temperature changes with that of the surrounding. In other words, we say that they are cold-blooded. So that is one of their characteristics. Their body temperature changes with that of the surrounding. When it is cold, their body temperature decreases. When it is hot, their body temperature increases. The other thing that you're supposed to know, when their body temperature decreases, they become inactive. Number 2, characteristic number 2, as you can see on the board, their bodies are covered with scales. Their bodies are covered with scales. That is the characteristic number 2. And I told you what scales are when we were talking about reptiles. Remember, reptiles are also covered, or their bodies are also covered with those scales. So somebody to remind me what we talked about, or what we said scales are in Kiswahili. Yes, good. They are known as, or inaitwa magamba. Scales are known as magamba. So that is good. That is characteristic number 2. So these are the things that we call scales, as you can see on the picture that I'm showing on the screen. Yes, those are scales. Look at them. Yes, those are scale. Good. Characteristic number 3. They lay eggs. They lay eggs. And their eggs are laid in water. They lay their eggs in water. That is characteristic number 3. And these eggs are the ones that hatch into their young ones. Yes, and the young ones of a fish are known as a, yes, are good. They are known as fingerings. The young ones of a fish are known as fingerings. Good. Characteristic number 4, they have fins. They have fins. That is characteristic number 4. So look at the picture on your screen. Those are the different types of fins. Look at them. Look at their names. Yes, those are the fins. They have different functions. As we continue, we'll address that, the functions of every fin. Yes. Yes, that is how they look like. Yes, I can hear you reading the names of those fins. Good. All those fins have different functions. Mostly, they help the fish to move in water. It is able to move upwards, downwards, to stop, to negotiate corners, and so on by the help of those fins. Good. Then, another characteristic, they breathe through gills. They breathe through gills. They breathe through gills. So look at the picture on your screen. So those are gills. Water gets inside there, and those gills are able to absorb oxygen, which is needed by the body or the bodies of fish. Yes, those are the gills. So they help to absorb oxygen and to release carbon dioxide, which is carried out by water. So as water enters in these gills, oxygen is absorbed and then carbon dioxide is released. Good. So those are some of the characteristics of fish, and from there I know you have a picture of some of the examples of fish. I told you that you give me those examples. Yes, help me to name them. Good. So we have some examples. I've heard you talking of tilapia. Yes, that is a good example of fish. It is very sweet, very sweet. I like tilapia. Tastes very sweet. Yes, I've heard you talking about Nile perch. Yes, that is another example of a fish. Yes, I've heard you talking about a shark. Yes, that is another example of a fish. So those are some of the examples of fish. So from here, I want us to watch a video on different types of fish. I want you to watch and see how they move, how they feed in water, and many other things that we have talked about. I know you enjoy the video, and until next time, goodbye.
Today, we're going to learn about the wettest animals on the planet. Presenting the fish. In almost all the places where you can find water, be it either salt water or fresh water, you can also find fish. There are fish of all sorts of sizes, shapes and colors, and yet they all have common characteristics, which you should know. Fish are vertebrates. Their skeleton is made up of bones or cartilage. They are also cold-blooded. Their temperature is not constant, meaning it depends on the water temperature. This fish looks really cold. All fish have extremities in the form of fins, as you can see in this image. Dorsal fins, caudal fins, which is the tail, pectoral fins, pelvic fins, and anal fin. Another really important fact that one must remember is that almost all fish are covered in scales. The gills are the fish's respiratory organ. The respiration process is very interesting. Water enters through the mouth and goes to the gills. The gills then collect the oxygen and distribute it to the rest of the body through the blood vessels. Then the water is expelled through an opening which can be found in the majority of the fish behind their head, which is called the gill flap. Fish reproduce by laying eggs. Therefore, they are oviparous, and their fertilization can be either external or internal. Some fish are excellent fathers, like this one who protects his babies inside his mouth. He looks as if he's going to eat them, but he's actually protecting them. Look at that! Isn't it amazing? Almost all fish are carnivores, eating other fish smaller than themselves, and therefore they each have different ways of defending themselves. The most common action to take is when feeling threatened is to escape as fast as possible, as in to swim away rapidly. But there are other ways of defending themselves that are much more original. For example, this clownfish finds hiding himself among these venomous enemies. Others imitate or camouflage themselves with their background by obtaining the color and shape of the plants and rocks around them. Can you see this fish in the image? Oh, well, there was indeed a fish, and a very hungry one. Look at this. This is the largest fish in the world, the whale shark. Even though it is called a whale shark, you must remember it is actually a shark, not a whale. Whales are not fish. They are aquatic animals, like these friendly dolphins. So never forget, whales and dolphins are not fish, but mammals.